see this young man down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map put up a strong fight. He is our Brazilian player, Kelazhur, Team Liquid.
Top left-hand side from Storm Gaming, our Red Terran player is SpeCial.
You know what I think is a funny stat about, it's not a statement about balance or anything, but it's a funny stat about like the Latin American scene and like the weighting of the players in the Latin American scene and like what races and stuff they play, is that in the round of 8 there are 3 Terran players, and then in the round of 4 there are 3 Terran players, and then it's just 2 Terran players and there's 1 Terran player. It's just like all Terran it's like mostly Terran players for the entirety of the thing, and it's like the same Terran players that make it almost the entire way through the bracket. I think it's a pretty interesting statement about how Latin America really does seem to somehow yield a bunch of these really strong Terran players.
It's almost like there was just 2 really strong Terran players from Latin America.
There was literally Terran there too, okay?
Yeah, but that was the first time he's been in the playoffs, right? So that was new.
It was new. Yeah.
Hey, before we go any further, I want to know. So we obviously SpeCial starts up 1-0 because he came from the winner bracket, right? Does that make this game 1 or game 2?
God, this is an age-old question. I always say this is game 2.
Me too. So can we just get that over with and just say game 1 was the 1-0?
Yeah.
Cool.
Game 1 was when Kelazhur took a look at SpeCial and was like, God damn, what a sexy beast. It's like, oh, you just earned a 1-0 already. And then we moved on to game number 2.
You know, because to be honest, this is only awkward for the first game or the second game of a series, right? And then like by game 5, like no one ever thinks of it again, unless you're still like, oh, it's game 4 when it's like, you know, 2-2 already, right? So I
know what you mean.
Yeah,
it's like when we kept referring to like, we kept referring to like in the last series, what game, like game 2, when Kelazhur went for this strategy and stuff. And if we do that later in the series, we say game 2 now, we're referring to this game.
Yeah. Okay. So game 1, SpeCial just looked way too good, and Kelazhur conceded the point. Perfect.
That's my headcanon.
Well, I tell you what I'd like to see. I'd like to see a different strategy from Kelazhur in game 2, because game 1 was not good for him. He lost so quick.
It was pretty one-sided.
Yeah. He didn't have a chance of getting that point.
Like if Kelazhur had a Pikachu that was wrapped in a plastic bag that was suffocating, I think Kelazhur would have given SpeCial the Pikachu right then.
Man, that Pikachu had a way sadder story about it than I expected.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
by the way,
like when he first said it, I laughed, and then I was like, wait, that's horrible to laugh about.
Yeah, but if you missed yesterday's show and you missed the match where SpeCial came in for one of the interviews and stuff, SpeCial told us the story about that yellow plushie that you see in the background to the right of him on the camera, and that is that I mean, you tell the story, Wardy. I'm actually too sad to tell it now.
You're actually too sad? Well, SpeCial was like, oh, this Pikachu, and he picks it up on camera. We're like, yeah, the Pikachu, and we're like, oh, it's so cute. He's like, yeah, I bought it for a girl, and she dumped me. I was like,
she dumped me before I could give it to her. So now I'm safe, but you know what? It had a redeeming arc. It was like, now I'm saving it for the next girl I date.
That's not a redeeming arc in the slightest. Like, I'm telling you that right now. That is not a redeeming arc at all. Medevac coming across the map as we are readying ourselves.
Good spot.
That was good spot on the Medevac.
Yeah, I mean, he gets the Hellions and stuff to unload first and delays things.
I thought you meant good spot for me getting the Medevac. I'm like, I'm just watching how observer. Oh my god, nice.
Wardy, we just started. Look, see, he delays things. The Cyclone gets out. He gets a really great snipe off there.
Oh god, so for some reason I was just like, I did not think he meant SpeCial at all. I'm sorry, I promise I'm in a real serious mood, ready for this grand final. Just got off on the wrong foot there. Good defense from SpeCial.
We will get there, absolutely. We do have, of course, again, like a good spot here for SpeCial with that nice snipe off on the Medevac. And now we end up having a situation where SpeCial has a little bit of a lead. And he's going to try and dive on in over here, get some scouting information with the Reapers. Makes it pretty far in, even snipes off an SCV and halts out that third command center for a little bit. I also want to note that we have SpeCial with the 2 Cyclone opening over here. I was going to say that could be really useful.
The Raven.
You don't lose one of your Ravens.
Yeah, we saw one Raven get sniped down today in Milky Cow Marine Lord, and that was kind of like, wait, what? This one gets away. He kind of brought it back in a moment too soon, which is why it was close. But obviously fixed that and got it back out in plenty of time. So well handled, well done. And I mean, nice try from Kelazhur. It's the sort of thing which, if it is successful, I mean, in that Milky Cow Marine Lord series, it completely offset the entirety of the game. And something Milky Cow was, you know, the aggressor and the player who was making the move. So it can make a huge difference losing a Raven for free super early. So really well done to keep it alive. Pretty much just an essential move in this TVT.
Yeah, it is not a super fun time. You just don't have your Ravens alive. I think we've even seen, maybe even today, if I recall correctly, sometimes when you do lose that Raven, it really causes all sorts of headaches and hurt. And speaking of which, it looks like that Raven will get out alive for now. Let me ask you something, Gordy. If you have the opportunity to snipe off the Raven, that's going to cost you like all of the Raven energy on both of your Ravens. Is that worth it in the early game?
Yeah, I think obviously it's very situational, because if you snipe off the Raven, then over time you're going to benefit from that more. But obviously if you snipe off the Raven and it costs you a situation where you can't then defend a siege up that's on your base, that's obviously bad, because then maybe you need your Raven energy. So it's a little bit situational, as a lot of things will be in TVT. I think in general the answer is yes, unless they're like immediately going to siege up your base and kill you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Definitely depends a bit on the situation. But we do end up seeing an interesting situation developing over here, as the Ravens are going to be poaching on very far forward, throwing down a bunch of auto turrets. So interference matrix goes off on one of them, interference matrix on the other. Just
the matrix is great.
Yeah, absolutely nothing accomplished there for Kelazhur except for losing some hit points and some units.
Yeah, this SpeCial Raven as well was across the map, killed 7 SCVs or so. And now he gets that one back home too. This was just really, really well defended, considering he had the 3 Ravens and totally still had 2 at home. And this is amazing, because now it's only 1 Raven from Kelazhur, because he ended up losing one of those during that fight. So yeah, really, really good stuff for SpeCial. Everything from him's been great, right? He snipes that medevac. He shuts down this attack with ease. I love, and the matrixes are such a unique response as well. So many people in that moment would so often, I think, not Matrix, but instead say, okay, you're auto turreting me, I'll auto turret back. But the Matrix is just, before the Ravens can get all their casts off, make a world of difference.
And it's hard to do, right? You have to have very, very quick reactions, because if you do an interference matrix on a Raven with no energy, all you've done is said, I will give up all of my energy for absolutely nothing. You might as well have lost the Raven for the earlier part of that fight, right? So definitely very well done there by SpeCial. And he is, of course, going into this mech style. He has all the factories and stuff thrown down. And, well, Kelazhur's going to stick with that good old Bioforce. And he does have a decently sized army now if he wants to try and poke forward and see what he can get done with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it at all. Obviously, we're kind of setting up in this situation where it is mech versus bio, right? So as Kelazhur, you are generally the player that wants to be a bit more active on the map. You want to be expanding more quickly. You need to have an answer to whatever it is SpeCial's going to be doing, to this mech army essentially in the end. So whether that's to out expand and just trade, whether that's to try and tech up into the starports a little faster and go into, a lot of people like to just kind of get the Viking count initially, then try and go fast to BCs or something. Whatever you decide to do, you've got to be confident on your plan though. And the moment you take one bad fight, that mech army can come across the map, you're going to be in some trouble. So always have an army ready to counter attack, always be the one on the map initiating. There's just a lot of rules you got to play by when you're the bio player playing the mech player. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. We're going to end up seeing that Kelazhur is realizing going across onto the left-hand side is going to be pretty difficult. So he's going to actually go after the rocks first. And there's going to be a supply depot built over here to spot, but the SCV instead will act as a spotter. SpeCial unsieges all of his tanks and actually is just ready to go for it. Man, he is itching for a fight.
Yep. Looking decent as this Viking Raven force coming up around the top side. It's going to end up pulling back down through the center now. Kelazhur going to come around the top as well. I was just going to be seeing the Marine up here initially getting taken down already. So that Marine gets picked off. I'm just going to see the rest of this Marine tank Viking army continuing through, looking to try and get on top of this third base at the moment. Not going to really find much of an opportunity. It's kind of scary, Kelazhur having so many of his units here, because if SpeCial did just launch a bit of an attack through the center, Kelazhur has like nothing to deal with that as units get chased.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, but ends up not seeing that come especially into play. Now you see a big siege up over here, but I mean the Viking count's so heavily in the favor of SpeCial. The Marines can't really fight with all the Hellions chasing. This is just turning into a bit of a disaster.
I mean, that's the power of having triple Raven alive versus one Raven. Like, Raven's just really good. You can do a lot with them. And now is the question of, is SpeCial going to be able to really just push on in here? He gets his siege up. I like where he sieged, because if he went a bit further forward, I think he genuinely is in trouble. But the way he does siege here just completely overwhelms, and this is just an attack that is not going to stop. And I mean, Kelazhur started kind of on the back foot, that medevac going down, his initial plan shut down, and it continued. That really set the tone for this entire game. Like, Kelazhur's not been in control of this in the slightest. Base goes down here, and well, now SpeCial can just keep on moving through, and not really much to say about this, right? You know, it was just plain and simple. He just won every single fight extremely convincingly.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. It really hasn't felt like there's been many points where Kelazhur has gotten an edge in this game. Now his army is also very stimmed up with half of its units, basically one shot away from Hellions or even maybe an SCV at this point from dying. The Vikings are going to have to try and go in to try and seize a little bit of air control. Yeah. I don't think he's going to be able to win this fight either.
Man, Kelazhur was like trying to take... So what Kelazhur did, I think, a little bit wrong here was obviously, you know, we can go back to the early game a little bit and talk about this and that and what went wrong for Kelazhur, but I think later game, he was starting to build Vikings of his own, but he never made a serious bid for air control. When he was, you know, initially building medevacs to then go into Viking production, he has like, what, 4 to 6 Vikings? They do nothing in that fight, but they're still an investment he's made, and you're already playing as the weaker army comp, so you're the weaker army comp that's now not overwhelming because you're trying to take air control, but not in a way that's actually, you know, you didn't want to take the fight, basically. You know, it's fine if you're trying to take air control, but that means that then you just do not want to fight because you don't have the numbers. And I think that's where it just all went wrong. He was kind of behind on army supply anyway in general, which isn't good. Yeah, maybe that just in general, like all the little things went wrong, the bigger things went wrong too. It was just SpeCial domination, man.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good way of putting it. It did feel like the choice for the Vikings and stuff to try and move into that, when clearly it just, the only thing the Vikings were doing was, I think, buying like 2 volleys or 3 volleys before the medevacs would die. It's like there wasn't really, or I guess even sometimes the Ravens, but the Ravens would get target fired down first anyways, right? So ended up being a really, really rough spot there. I think that there were a few things, like you were saying, though, in the early game also that weren't going well. Obviously, the medevac getting picked off, the first medevac getting picked off, and the harassment didn't go well. We had like the other attack the front lines. Kelazhur was already playing a bit further from behind, so but maybe you can write that one off a little bit. Yeah,
the Raven killed like 7 SCVs, which actually we didn't really like mention too much at the time, but it's also kind of a big deal because
it's behind 20 workers.
Yeah. What usually happens, right, is that, you know, if you send a Raven across the map to harass SCVs, it's A, in danger of dying, which it didn't do, and B, it means you're missing a Raven from the front lines. But then in this case, he was obviously having 3 Ravens against the 2, and then he matrixed them so well that it just didn't matter. Like, it was just perfect. So, like, he didn't feel the punishment of missing the Raven, and that just goes a long, long way as well, because then it meant he got really meaningful damage. And was able to turn that into part of the lead as well. On the top right-hand side, looking amazing in that last game. It is SpeCial, now up 2-0.
And down here on the bottom left-hand side of the map, the boy in blue from Team Liquid, he is Kelazhur. Diego Schwimmer, which is a fitting last name, considering he joined Team Liquid.
He can't swim through every liquid, though. Would have been more appropriate if he was joining Team Water.
You can't swim through every liquid.
Yeah, some of them are too hot. You can.
I mean, you
are too viscous.
I mean, you could swim through them. Yeah. You might.
You
might die during the process of it.
I mean, I feel like some of them you get into and die before you swim. So.
I guess okay. I'm not gonna debate you
this
on
is
the
a
technical
really
definition of the word
debate.
swim. Okay, we're not doing this.
I mean, yes, you could lower yourself into any liquid, but that does not count as swimming until you swim.
I'm not gonna debate you on the technical definition of like what if I do one like stroke and one kick, is that technically swimming? Like, no, we're not doing this. All right, we're gonna instead talk about the fact that we do actually have a pretty quick reactor coming out over here from Kelazhur. Whereas, of course, SpeCial going for the more typical, just first Reaper.
Reactor first with double gas, so it's aggressive, right? You're looking to get a lot of units out. It's going to be Reapers. So he's looking to get into high Reaper count, Hellion production. He'll expand further down the line. Obviously, typically with double gas, you're going to take a later expansion, but it doesn't stop you completely from expanding. So double Reaper production, you're going to make Hellions with it, and it really is the idea of trying to overwhelm. Against a fast expansion like this from SpeCial, it's interesting. So your units won't get across the map in time to delay the CC building, right? Because the CC started building so early, it's going to be done before your attack hits. But you might be able to get there and just contest the fact that there's just not going to be that many units out because they expanded early. The factory was a bit later. The starport's just now starting. That is where Kelazhur might be able to get something done. Of course, SpeCial strength is just saying, well, if he realizes what's going on, abandon the low ground, defend the high ground, that's where he should be able to stay alive. So that's how I imagine this plays out.
Yep. Third and fourth Reapers are going to be pretty key to making this work. There is a Widow Mine in production over here for SpeCial. That is potentially going to be a big deal if the Reapers decide to split off from the Hellion and decide to go up the, up that big old hop-up cliff, whatever you want to call it. Words. But if he instead just decides to go through the center or like the natural expansion, where it looks like the Widow Mine is actually going to burrow, so it's a little bit different than I was expecting, but yeah, that could be a problem.
Oh no. So usually this is okay if you split away, right? But he didn't split away, and then he does kill the Widow Mine, but in killing the Widow Mine, obviously it's nice to kill a Widow Mine, but in this case you're killing the Widow Mine while taking damage rather than dealing damage to the other units that are already dealing damage to you. Maybe now coming back in, you're going to overwhelm a little bit. Let's find out. Grenade is decent. Obviously, grenades are the one thing that SpeCial is missing. He only has one of them. Yeah, he kind of loses a lot here. Kelazhur definitely has the army advantage. Remember, his CC isn't finished up just yet, so as he kills some SCVs, this is damage which was somewhat necessary. Kelazhur is going to end up doing a fair amount, and with extra Reapers still showing up, that's a good thing. Of course, he's behind on tech because he doesn't... yeah, nice Raven auto turret. Yeah,
well, it's a nice auto turret, but I mean, forcing out the auto turret is also pretty big, right? That's going to be just the Raven having a lot less energy now.
Buys you time for the Cyclone, though, right? The Cyclone's one of the bigger units you want to get out here. You lock onto a first Reaper, now you pull back. You should be able to repair that Cyclone and out damage these Reapers. Nice grenades, really good grenades. Perfect grenades from Kelazhur, absolutely perfect. Wow. Yeah,
Raven has got nothing to do. Some Marines finally pop out and take care of one of the Hellions. But man, Kelazhur has a decent supply lead. That refinery is still just burning down inside the natural. And finally, looks like SpeCial will get there in time to repair it back up. But a lot of good damage was done there by Kelazhur. And after a not so great start to that fight.
Yeah, Kelazhur was obviously behind on tech, right? But he's going to start playing catch-up pretty quickly. He's already on his way to the second Raven. I mean, double in the army supply, amazing too. We'll see if he can make any use of that, right? There's a fairly reasonable chance he moves across the map and can find a lot of success. So we'll see how that turns out fairly soon. He's a couple units from Kelazhur still out the front, looking to try and poke forward. Raven coming in, it's going to get locked onto, drops an auto turret down, is going to turn those few units away.
Yeah, Cyclone ends up breaking that vision range, not being able to take out that Raven. But I mean, that's the second auto turret first out at least. So he continues to try and poke on in. and has very clearly the intention to do exactly that. Oh, doesn't quite get the lock onto the other Cyclone or the Raven though, so not the most ideal lock on targets. And now it looks like he's going to end up losing his other Cyclone. The Marines start coming on forward. This is turning from good to like not so great.
Yeah, it's a really important defense for Special, right? In a situation where he was genuinely in a fair amount of trouble. Now he gets to survive, and you know the numbers are still favoring Kelazhur, but you know the work count's evening out. And as the work count evens out, you got to remember, you know, Special has a 3rd CC up and Kelazhur still doesn't. And Special is just going to be that, you know, I just don't mind his position. Just Rack's coming through. He just needs to deal with this little position now. And he's honestly in a pretty decent spot. He's going to come out here and fight this. He's got the Ravens to outnumber. So he'll go for it right now. Got that Matrix down. Matrix for Matrix, but he'll also auto turret. That might be the deal breaker. Keep those Ravens alive. You obviously don't want to lose those. They're low HP. The tank is dead. Tank is dead on the other side. I mean, this is a little bit chaotic still. There's a tank to the left side from Special that's doing a lot of damage to these Marines. I don't think they should still be pushing, honestly. Double Viking gonna try and go for this. The tank will fall. I mean, it's a complete another trade out. Just it's kind of a weird one. It's expensive. I don't know if you're Dragon. It's being kind of wild.
Yeah, that's a really hard one to read. I actually would have liked it a little bit more if the auto turrets or something after they killed the tank on the high ground had gone after like the tech lab or something. If I think Kelazhur had walked away with at least like some production halting or something, I'd feel a little bit better about it. It's just the fact that now the 3rd CC lands over here for Special, and Kelazhur's 3rd CC I think still floating over, is not really set up. Like, he used all of his Raven energy and is now down to just a single Raven because he lost his or a Special kept his. I still like this a little bit more for Special now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely everything that's happened seems to just improve for Special. Where before, obviously, it was definitely Kelazhur's kind of game, right? And this is what I told you about pre-show. I think just the idea of the engagements and the engagements being really kind of game defining. Special just seems to me to have a better way of engaging, seems to have the fundamentals of engaging in these kind of situations down much better than Kelazhur. And so he's able to win a lot of these fights he maybe shouldn't. This positioning initially is great, and I love the auto toes just to fend this off a little bit, because he is playing at that air disadvantage on Vikings, and you know what he's able to do here kind of evens it out, buys him some time. All of a sudden we're talking about 4 Vikings versus 4 Vikings, so Special wins another little trade.
Yeah, and again, still having the Raven lead as well is going to make things really, really nice as it comes down to the air superiority later on, because the Vikings are all busy just fighting each other. Those Ravens do have a little bit more leeway to try and get something done. And Kelazhur is actually just going back into medevacs now, so I don't think we've seen any medevacs coming out from Special just yet. No, so that is going to give, of course, Kelazhur the ability to, you know, heal his units after he stims and everything. But it does come at the cost of that air superiority.
Stimming in from the right-hand side, we're going to see the Ravens a little bit slow to get back over here. Ooh, they got targeted down pretty quickly, so they are not able to get as much out initially. Now Special will continue to chase, gets rid of 1 tank, will land the Vikings, 2 tanks remaining. He needs to get rid of the siege tanks. They're putting out so much damage here. He will get rid of them. Doesn't even lose SCVs because the tanks were firing targeted on Vikings and Marines. Special still just comes out ahead on supply, and it's just crazy that he can win fight after fight.
I'm actually amazed also that somehow he still walked away with 1 of his Ravens still alive. So he still has a Raven advantage, which is pretty crazy. Kelazhur does at least get out of there with his 2 medevacs. So he doesn't have to worry about remaking those after having lost, you know, all of his own Vikings and stuff. So that's one little plus here. He's even going to get out 3rd and 4th medevac and going to try and put on some drop pressure.
Off we go to the right-hand side with those, and a lone siege tank is clearing the acceleration zone. Not seen that move before, but we'll take it. We like it.
It does win the fight.
It does win the fight. You're not wrong. I mean, hey, better than a Marine, it would have traded out a low HP and then kind of been like, well, I'm kind of useless now. Tank just gets the job done, no bother.
Yeah, man. That's what we just need to do. We just need to put the tanks at the Zolnaga Watchtower. Oh, man. Special's so on top of it. He literally had his Vikings ready for the run by.
This is a really bad fight for Kelazhur. Obviously, just does not have the numbers here. If he turns for the tank, I'm worried for the medevacs. Kelazhur, does Special stim again? It's possible. And he's just going to go all the way across. Is there any tanks here? There's 1 in the background, so he's going to trade fight. stuck around maybe a bit too long, took a couple tank shots he maybe didn't need to. So yeah, I mean, he wasn't wrong to chase across the map, and Kelazhur was really clutch in getting those tanks out of there, because that could have been much worse.
Yeah, I think the only thing he really was lacking for maybe that fight and stuff was combat shields, and now he has combat shields and he's getting ready for that big old move out. Looking confident, still has that Raven alive with a decent amount of energy.
Yeah.
Finding a medevac over there. If Kelazhur going for SCV scout across the map, but it's going to completely miss the army. But don't worry, he knows the army's coming because it's headed right for his front door.
Yeah, he knows it's here. It's just, in a way, I feel like he doesn't want to accept that it's here, right? It's like, no, if I don't see it, it can't actually be here, right? Gonna get a stem forward. I mean, the tank's in that low ground. It's a really decent position to work with because it really stops you from running forward into the acceleration zone as the defender. So you can't really chase down, and you can't move down the ramp on the right side between the natural and third to kind of flank a little bit. So you could go all the way down the ramp on the third, but if you move your army all the way there, SpeCial has more time to react, respond, and then to jump on this base perhaps to make something of it, or just to prepare for the flankers. He's just going to try and sneak a tank forward. He's going to put Marines in the front to try and give him a chance. Oh, I mean, with tank fire, it gets dangerous. It's a little bit back and forth.
Yeah, I think this is not working out. I mean, until he started sniping off all these medevacs and stuff, it was not working out so well for SpeCial, but now he's really finding a good bit of that damage. And his two tanks survive in that accelerator zone, still just creating a bit of a chokehold. Continues to reinforce with more units. All the Marines coming in to reinforce from behind. And man, oh man, is SpeCial just overpowering Kelazhur.
With less upgrades too, by the way. 1-1 against 2-2, and he just wins this fight. I mean, I know the tanks have a lot of the say in this, but still, usually Marines on Marines. There was a good bit of Marine versus Marine there. It's just the number difference, and in this case, SpeCial is going to win it out. He's going to chase SCVs. He's probably going to get this orbital. I feel like that's not flying the right way to stay alive. If there was any chance at all. Man, SpeCial is genuinely just really terrifying in this region. Like,
he is killer, man.
The thing is, because like, and this is why I predicted a SpeCial 4, because every time I get to Latin America, I'm like, Kelazhur ain't bad. Cham ain't bad, right? Like, these guys are good. I see them take down and take on other players in Europe all the time. But then they play against SpeCial, and it's just like, well, why don't they just play like the other guys in Europe? And well, because SpeCial's just playing that freaking good. He doesn't make it that simple. It's kind of crazy.
I actually think as we end up seeing potentially a fight that Kelazhur might be able to win, since a lot of the sea tanks for SpeCial are not getting as involved in the fight over here. That's actually going to secure the way for the SCVs to return home. Yay! But I think one of the really difficult things about SpeCial, as we've kind of seen in this game also, is that he is just such a strong late game player that he can fall behind as long as he survives the earlier game or the mid game and isn't unbelievably far behind. He will oftentimes still find little ways to come back in the game and start taking advantages.
Well, he is taking any and every advantage he can right now. He's just slitting out the front. He's got 4 bases against 3 bases. And the game just continues to trickle on in his favor. There's, like I say, really not much else to add about it. Tanks move forward a little bit. Kelazhur's going to go for the attempted cleanup, and that might be able to clean up, but he loses so much in the process, and that's forever the issue. Then reinforcements get here. The Vikings are shooting down medevacs throughout this, and Kelazhur is left with not very much to his name after that.
Yeah, when I think a Terran player on 2 orbital commands is constantly having to scan for vision because all of his air units just keep getting sniped off by the Vikings, it's not a good economic place. We'll put it that way.
No, it's not where you want to be at all. So we're still on forward. Everything's just continuing to go down, and I think we've got ourselves a bit of a finale coming up here in this game, unfortunately. Yeah, it's just a little bit rough, right? I mean, I want to cheer for Kelazhur. I want to believe in him, but like SpeCial just makes it so hard. I mean, Kelazhur got such a good start in this game to the point where I wouldn't have believed that this was going to turn around the way it did.
I'm kind of with you there. It's really, really brutal to watch, but SpeCial is just really, really good at managing these mid games. And I think we were talking about it earlier on the broadcast with, like, I think Green Lord and Milky Cow and stuff. TVT is such an unforgiving matchup. If you're up against someone that might be, like, quite frankly, I think even Kelazhur would kind of agree, like someone who's probably a little bit better than you, because they will just find ways to stay in the game and be able to find big edges, these little moments that they can just continue to capitalize on. GG. That's a 3-0 lead right now for SpeCial in this best of 7.
Doesn't it almost already feel impossible now? Like, you're down 0-3, you gotta win 4 in a row. It feels so tough. You know what else I think makes a difference here? It's like, Cham and Kelazhur played this epic series that's got to drain you, right? There's so much on the line. You know this is your best chance at improving your placement in the event. And the SpeCial just sat that way, and you come out with this grueling best of 5, and SpeCial's like, what's up, guys? Just been warming up, you know, ready to play. I feel like that can't possibly help either. I know these guys play a lot of games in a row usually, but yeah, it's
you know what it is?
Something about it.
It's like you have the big action movie or something. It's like a Marvel Avengers movie.
Yeah.
And they have like, it's like Thor Ragnarok, they beat the big bad and everything. And I was like, cool, we're celebrating on the ship. And then it's like the post-credit scene is just Thanos wrecking them. Like, that's kind of what it's like. It's like, this is the post-credit scene to tease at season 2.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, the hero does not win. It's post-credit scene.
You know, I never used to think about this because in my eyes, I was like, yeah, players, they play like a load all the time, right? They're always like grinding ladder game after game. But I really noticed this in like the ESL Open Cup weeklies, right? Where in Europe, a lot of the time, one side of the bracket moves faster. It happened a lot when Hero Marine won a lot, where Hero Marine would have like a nice semi-final where he'd win like 3-0 or something against someone he was favored against. And then Clem and Showtime would like batter each other in like a grueling hour and a half, best of 5 that goes all 5 games, epic base trades, whatever. And then they just walk into the finals and Hero Marine's like, hey guys, how's it going? I've been waiting for you guys for an hour. And he just crushes them. And it's almost like, you know, they have nothing left to give, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that, like I say, I never really thought of as much, but over the last couple of years, I've really been like, yeah, that's actually seems to be such a big thing in StarCraft too. Noticing it more and more. It's Blackburn. Gonna be our next map here for this grand final map 4 coming up. SpeCial leads 3-0 to the DreamHack SC2 Masters Fall Latin American region, as we just mentioned, grand final. And the winner of this walks away with $4,500 for your dragon. And of course, I think something we haven't really mentioned that much, but that's seed to the season finals as well, which is more money guaranteed, plus the chance to play for even more.
Absolutely. Definitely don't want to sleep on that. And I think a lot of people are kind of expecting SpeCial to be the one to get that seed of the grand finals. I mean, not even like, oh, SpeCial's expected to be the one who wins the grand finals and stuff. It's expected to be the one at the season finals. It'd be a huge surprise and upset for the season finals to be like, oh, Kelazhur is here or something. So I think that's what
would.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are expecting. We'll see if Kelazhur can turn things around, because so far we're still on that route. I think I am having a lot of trouble joining this lobby. So I'm just going to say to our wonderful, wonderful admin and observer, oh no, I joined the lobby. Okay, we're good. I was about to say, just get started without me.
We would start without you. We're not like that.
Oh, Kelazhur wasn't in here either.
Yeah, Kelazhur wasn't here either, so you're all good.
Yeah, all right. Well, Blackburn, like you were saying, so how you feeling about TBT on Blackburn? I actually don't know if I've watched a crazy number of TBTs on Blackburn. I've definitely seen a few, but not like a crazy number.
It's positional, and I know that's kind of TBT in a nutshell, but this really is split map city, right? You know, it is difficult to find attack path. There is really only one. It's very tough to break your opponent through the bottom side. You just got to take a way better fight or just have way more because of whatever happened early game. So if you can't break through the bottom, it's difficult to justify dropping because obviously you're going through slow zones typically to reach the main. That's a death trap if there's a Viking or two there. So you're kind of looking at generally split map games that go that little bit longer, provided nothing sets one player apart from the other early on. If someone can take momentum, take advantage, and take position on the other side, it doesn't matter about having to push through into them. It's once they get set up and they get defended, then pushing across to break them can be that much more difficult. Let's see what's in store for us. Is in the bottom right-hand side, down 0-3, and looking to try and put his name on the scoreboard. It's Kelazhur.
And over here in the bottom left-hand side of the map from Psystorm Gaming, sitting up at 3-0, and at match point, he is SpeCial. You know, Wardy, after again, like that last game, I do not hate the idea of Kelazhur doing something a bit aggressive again, because I do think that is the one area where it's like, you have to find something that's a big enough lead that you can carry it out into a big old W. But yeah, something like this where it's like, yes, sometimes SpeCial is a bit more vulnerable in like, say, the early game stages than he is in like the later game stages.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's I definitely think the last game was just the dream opening for Kelazhur. He got so much done, and he just got carried away with the fights after that. You know, he was so desperate to clean up and believing he could just win every fight. The moment he was landing those Vikings and joined a couple of Marines, it's like, well, yeah, you end up killing that tank, but you lost 4 more Marines, one of your Vikings, your other Viking has like no HP left on it, and suddenly that just swings the game because yeah, he was ahead. But he wasn't so far ahead to just take reckless fights, and that's what he ended up doing. It just needs to do something. I mean, obviously opening 2 Rax Reaper here, so hoping to get a lead off that. Just needs to be more careful following up from it, just be a little bit more delicate with how he transitions.
Yeah, interesting. SpeCial's kind of just checking in. He's like, where is your command center? He's still waiting around, but hasn't been able to get any additional scouting information. That single Reaper will make its way forward to try and snipe off that SCV. I wonder, I mean, there's just sometimes that it feels like there's some unexplainable, inexplicable reasons why a player will be like, just the way you were moving your units felt like it was a 2 Rax Reaper or something like that. But, well, with the low ground CC, it does seem like SpeCial is maybe going to get caught a bit more off guard by this. We'll see.
Yeah, it wasn't a super fast low ground CC, right? So initially here it's 2 versus 2 on the Reaper count, and he's gonna eat a grenade and get popped back again. I mean, the damage doesn't matter there. Usually the grenades are more, you lose time in the sky, and that's when you get hit an extra time and stuff like that, or you get pushed out of position. So yeah, because this was such a late CC from SpeCial, he's gonna turn out to be okay. What's really interesting is that Kelazhur is still just making Reapers at factory with Hellions and hasn't expanded behind it, because you can absolutely 2 Rax Reaper and expand. And this is 2 Rax Reaper into factory, then the expansion. So is definitely very committed. Obviously much more committed than his opponent here. Let's see if Kelazhur can make anything out of this. Just that later CC, and he's still just bumping out units. Love the Widow Mine on the high ground. Reaper's gonna try dive the main base, and that's cute, especially when SpeCial has a Widow Mine that's in the wrong place now. That's not gonna do anything.
Actually gets a few hits off on that tech lab. Unlikely he's going to be able to actually kill it, but ooh, that's an interesting choice. Swaps things around to get the starport on the tech lab over here while these Reapers are very clearly trying to find some damage. You're going to see Hellion absorbs the shot, takes it out. Reapers will be able to regenerate some of those hit points. And we'll see, is Kelazhur going to make some good damage happen over here as he definitely lines up his Reapers for that Hellion.
Yeah, I didn't like the jump up, because the moment you jump up here, it's very committed, because you've also got the slow zone out. The grenade saves him, but the problem is he's also only saving 1 Reaper. Oh, that wasn't in Fear Dragon. That was not the way to trade out the units. Okay, you killed 4 SCVs. Don't get me wrong, that's nice, but you're losing a lot of your map control. And in losing a lot of your map control, you're instantly getting into this position where SpeCial maybe has an army advantage, maybe you can do something with that. Right now, he's got 2 Reapers that are going to dive by, and even if they just go in for like a couple of SCVs, he actually goes for the Marines, which I don't hate, and he loses 1 Reaper. I feel like he could have got a couple of SCVs if he just ran past the Marines. That might have been more valuable, but I mean, still slows down the army of his opponent, trades out Reapers that aren't as necessary anymore, so making room for just a better army at the end game.
Yeah, and hey, I guess it depends if SpeCial's gonna go for, you know, a little push out here after he gets up his 2nd Raven, like a 2nd or 3rd siege tank. I don't hate the idea of reducing your opponent's army count to just go for the jugular right there, but I imagine that he's already going to be throwing up that 3rd CC and everything, gearing up for a slightly later stage situation.
Yeah. Well, Raven up on either side of the map. That stim pack is real quick from Kelazhur. It's one of the big benefits of playing the 2 Racks, right? You've just got 2 Racks up. It's typically going to lead you into bio play a little bit more quickly. Usually a lot of people skip Ravens actually when they play 2 Racks Reaper and, you know, play into Marines pretty quickly after. This was stim while building Ravens, so while that is cute as that Raven actually I think goes down here. Yeah, that's a nice catch. The one thing I did just want to say very quickly though was that this was not a lot of Marines from Kelazhur. Like, he really focused on like the Raven production, etc. So while he has stim really quick, he doesn't actually have any Marines to use it with. So just something to note off of all that.
That is actually a good point. Yeah, it's a little bit funny how that works out. Special's going to come in with his second Raven. Is going to be a lot more cautious with this one. In and out. Here comes a couple of SCV kills. Kelazhur not pulling his SCVs away at all. Also kind of interesting, as definitely ends up eating a few more losses because of it.
Yeah, he does indeed.
Starport land. Units clear the way.
Would be nice, wouldn't it? Hey, you know, maybe land over here and take this land down. I mean, Special just dropping down that double factory with the Liberators coming through. So, I mean, the big question is going to be moving out to that third CC location. Getting that third base position up and running. And especially if you take the forward third position, like I've been talking about, it just makes it so difficult to push through the bottom side where Kelazhur is pushing right now. So, we'll see if that's something that comes to fruition in the near future.
Kelazhur's making his little move out over here. Is going to get spotted by the Marine. Oof, loses both of the Hellions. Pretty much all the frontline units right there. But at least now knows the positioning of all those siege tanks up there, which is going to be helpful to not immediately just lose all of his Marines and his siege tanks in a really, really horrific way. So avoid, you know, trading a little bit for a lot.
We're in the main, but Vikings, no. The Vikings were chasing the Liberator. Wow. They turned away. Now you're going to lose maybe a couple SCVs before it goes down. Just annoying, right? 3 SCVs that just did not need to die. Would have been 4, but he killed a Marine first as well. Again, little things that Kelazhur just slips up on. Just makes his life that much tougher.
Yeah, another Liberator comes into the natural while he's trying to maneuver around with his army. He's also poking in at that third base, but I don't think that's going to be accomplishing a whole lot. 5 more Orcers end up falling over there. So, and Special just keeps finding these small little openings, these small little wins here and there. And you can see it's reflected in the army supply. He's killed a decent number of these workers. He's got still his own, I guess he did lose one of his Ravens, but still has that siege tank count lead, has that Viking count going up.
Yeah. Here we go with this army of Kelazhur wanting to move forward a bit. You can see the Viking Raven kind of eyeing everything up right there. The thing is, Special, he doesn't even need this forward base. And I don't mind they took the backward base, because even just taking the backward base, you can just put units out in front of the natural, and that defends the major push into the third. So this works too. I mean, now your main is a little bit weaker, but anything you try and play around the main has slow zones and the Viking kind of deal with. So see the Vikings already coming through, getting some good shots off. Special trades 2 for 0, I believe.
Yeah,
it's just fantastic air fight, right? I feel like you got nothing but compliments for everything Special does at the moment.
It's definitely been pretty tough, and now we end up seeing a large number of interference matrices coming out over here for Kelazhur. That was one of his big advantages, having that extra Raven energy. We start to see the Vikings also landing for potentially both sides over here. Special finally lands his own Vikings, but you can see Kelazhur just gets cleaned up over here, and Special walks away almost 30 supply ahead.
He's just going to walk across the map. You know, he's got Vikings. He's going to kill that Raven off.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I mean, he's got Vikings. He's got tanks. That's all you need to push across. There's one tank. Okay, that's not going to hold down this position. Let's just put it that way. Special says, I don't need air control. Let's land the Vikings, get my tanks in position a little bit more easily. The SCVs actually take a lot of damage and friendly fire the Vikings a little bit thanks to the siege tanks. And that one tank actually does survive. I thought that was destined to die, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's putting in the work for sure. It's up to, what is that? Decent number. It's only got 2 kills right now. I think it was one of Special's tanks that had 8 kills on it or something. But yeah, we're gonna end up seeing Special does kind of back out a little bit. I don't even know that he needs to continue pushing on and doing that much more, but I do feel like once he just regroups a little bit, he could very well just continue to push forward.
Yeah, I mean, actually this fight was kind of funny because it was actually better for Kelazhur than I thought, but of course he lost so many SCVs, right? And that's why it's really going to hurt him a little bit down the line. It's funny because I feel like if the tanks had target fire, but none of them were in range to target fire anything else, they all hit the SCVs, so the Vikings just blew up. Yep. That was a little bit awkward. As Kelazhur, of course, with the bio, at least can take some map control, going to try and work around the top side, etc. course, Specials is building a fourth base in position, and typically when you're playing Bio, you want to be expanding faster. So the fact that the mech player can build a fourth in location kind of just speaks volumes about his perceived advantage in this game.
And we're kind of getting back to that other little conundrum here where it's Kelazhur going to be building up this Viking fleet of his own and everything. He's still playing for a little bit behind in that Viking count, still doesn't have any Ravens of his own anymore. But that also means that he's not going to have any medevacs. So every time, even just like, okay, I'm going to cash 4 of these Hellions, but he stems up his entire like Bioforce for this, and there's no healing going to be coming out for that. That kind of stuff I do feel like is really going to hurt in the long term.
Yeah, lack of healing is definitely definitely going to be rough. I mean, these units, if they stim one more time, they're just in danger territory already, taking an actual fight. So it's all well and good using that for map control. He's just stuck in a weird place because he's trying to contest for air control. Yeah, it's definitely a bit funky.
Well, this is a tough map to break a meching player on. I'll say that, especially as you already see, just 2 sensor towers basically cover most of the area your opponent could actually do anything really cheeky or crazy with. So Kelazhur is really going to need to work hard to try and find some openings here.
Yep. I mean, this is the one thing I mentioned about Blackburn, right? It's if you do get to this stage, split map is going to be kind of a thing. The problem is splitting the map with mech is just way better than splitting the map with bio, and that means that Kelazhur has to be the one that then starts to take up, which and he is doing, right? Like he's putting out 4 Vikings at a time. Like he's doing the right thing. He's not sticking to producing Marines and Marauders. In fact, he's cut Marines and Marauders. He's just building tanks and Vikings because he's happy with the amount of bio he's got, holding a bit of map control.
Yeah.
He now focuses on everything else that's going to help him actually win fights.
Ooh. If he also is able to get into a nice defensive siege up spot, realize that this army is here, and he does, come in from the backside with the Marines and Marauders stemmed up, that could be a big moment here for Kelazhur.
He's starting to lose the air battle, though, and I feel like the air battle is something he really needs to win because he's been investing so much into it. And even just not winning it right away means this Liberator pushes the position, and it just gives these tanks that better position to siege up in. And they're a little bit brazen. They will just run forward and kind of siege up in range of other tanks, of course, because he just says, well, I outnumber you, so it's no worries to me.
Yeah, and Special now knows the positioning of the Bioforce. You scanned and saw the Bioforce moving up to the high ground and everything, so I feel like an ambush is going to come a lot more well-known at this point. Special will be a lot more prepared, even just to focus fire or, to move his tanks a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah, especially, I mean, the thing is, once those tanks are in range of that orbital, it is just not going to be surviving in the slightest. If you lift it up, the Vikings could contest. Vikings were a bit out of position, you could argue. It's not the end of the world, as you do see the Bioforce pushing on the counter. Special's got to respond to that because he doesn't really have anything here. And I think Kelazhur is kind of surprised by it because he's like, wait a sec, what? He sent a unit forward expecting it to get blown up, like checking where the tank line is. He's like, wait, there's no tank line? And then the tanks come chasing him down. He's like, oh. Interesting.
This is where it does get a little bit weird because the Hellions are going to be able to roast a lot of the Marines, but the Marauders are left over at the very end, and they're still going to be able to take out a lot of those tanks. So at the end of the day, Kelazhur does still kind of trade out for a decent amount of that army, and he is going to be able to land those own Vikings to try and take out the remaining tanks, land some other Vikings that come in to reinforce at the last second. It's basically just a Thor versus a lot of Vikings, but Kelazhur just has floated over to the gold base and try and take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, I like taking the gold base. It's definitely one way to do this. I'm worried that Kelazhur's landed those Vikings. They took a couple of volleys of tanks, and now I'm like, well, you were working so hard for air control, but you're almost putting it in a position where it can't even be used. I mean, obviously, you can't just run Vikings on the ground into siege tanks here. It's going to be tough. So now you're going to have units popping out, getting killed off instantly. Starport's going to get denied. Yeah, I mean, Special is going to land these Vikings to speed up the process, but it's rough for Kelazhur because Special Siege will just continue forward. It's a difficult break, and it looks as though Kelazhur is thinking about it. I mean, there's just no real good choice for your Dragon. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't know what you do here.
It's pretty brutal, but that is the power of Juanito as we end up seeing Kelazhur pulling all the boys in, trying to make one final stand over here against the absolute juggernaut of Latin America. But GG, well played gets called, and Special sweeps the series 4-0 with just truly dominating.